I was born 17 years ago. For the past 6 months, I've been in my basement playing Skyrim. But for all those hours, I've never understood what the hell has been going on. I scoured the internet, searching for wikis, to find even the most obscure events in the Elder Scrolls. Behold, sunlight now enters my room. These are the early hours of the morning, and my few moments of free time. Fueled by obscene amounts of caffeine, I search for the events of the Elder Scrolls lore.
According to Old Nord legend, after Yggsgrimor and his followers settled in Skyrim, they brought their native Atmoran religion with them. This religion comprised of worshipping animal gods, namely the hawk, the wolf, the snake, the moth, the owl, the whale, the bear, the fox, and the dragon. Some scholars suspect that they actually were worshipping the divines as we know them today, but just in animal form. However, that's really neither here nor there. This is happening way back in the Morethic area, which I probably butchered the pronunciation of. Again, as usual on this show, not so great at pronouncing stuff. So, carrying on. This is a time when dragons were still very much alive. So, the dragons were only all too happy to be venerated as gods. However, the dragons had much more important things to do, so couldn't actually be bothered to rule the populace. This led to the dragon priests. So you pretty much have your people who worship dragons, they bring offerings to the dragon priests, and the dragon priests give it to the dragons. In exchange, the dragons grant some of their power to the dragon priests, so they can keep good order on the populace. And for quite some time this actually works out pretty well. Well, certainly not everyone's completely happy about it. Most people are, because after all the dragons are considered to be as gods. But once Yggsgrimor and his followers settle in Skyrim, by the way, this is post-Snow Elf War, I believe, but I'm not 100% sure on that. But considering how the Snow Elves, also known as the Falmer, don't pop up during our narrative, I'm assuming it's after that. So once they get over to Tamriel, things aren't so neat and tidy. We're not exactly sure if this was due to a particularly ambitious dragon priest or dragon, or simply a weak series of kings. But they pretty much extort the people so badly that pretty much the entire population is slaves at this point. Understandably, the people end up rebelling. However, the retaliation is swift and brutal from the dragons and the dragon priests. The dragon priests, of course, have all manner of magic, and the dragons are fricking dragons. So, men are dying by the thousands, and things are not looking so good. However, fortunately for the mortal men, they actually do have the divines on their sides. Keen intervened. In case you don't know who Keen is, she is the Nordic goddess of the storm. She convinces a few dragons, including Paarthurnax, to go over to the human side. Paarthurnax in particularly ends up teaching mankind the way of the Thu'um, better known as the Way of the Voice. So, now that men actually have a pretty good thing in their arsenal now to fight back, things are a bit more even. Mankind creates a shout known as Dragonrend. This is built particularly out of the hatred for dragons. It uses its force and the concept of mortality, which dragons don't know of since they're of course immortal, to absolutely pulverize the dragons. This ends up switching the balance pretty well. The ancient Nord heroes, Haken One-Eye, Feldir the Old, and Gormlaith Goldhilt are able to defeat, in brackets, Eldwin at a battle taking place at the summit of the Throat of the World. However, this defeat was only really temporary because he reappears later on in the Fourth Era, better known as the time when Skyrim takes place. I am, of course, referring to the game. So, after the Dragon War, things were getting pretty heated, as you can imagine, but balancing out right when the, again, in brackets, killing blow was dealt to Eldwin. So, after that, most of the dragons are hunted down and killed. It's kind of suspected that some of the few that did live either fled over to Akavir, which is another continent famous for its dragons, or perhaps Atmora. The Atmora thing isn't too likely though, since it's a frozen wasteland, but if you'd like to learn more about that, look at the previous episodes. I'm of course too lazy to put in annotations, so just go look at the playlist for that. And some dragons do stay in Skyrim, while the only one that we know of for sure is Paarthurnax, who actually takes up residence on top of the Throat of the World, where he teaches the Greybeards the way of the voice. As you can imagine, the Dragon War has a pretty massive aftermath. So the Dragon Cult does adapt and survive a bit. They build dragon mounds, where they entomb the remains of dragons that fell in the war. These can still be found all across Skyrim. Excuse me. They believe in particularly that one day the dragons will arise and reward the faithful. However, it didn't survive for too terribly long into the modern world. It eventually segregated to an upper monastery in Forholst, and pretty much it's just an undead dragon priest and a bunch of Draugr over there today. So, yeah, not really too active anymore. As far as the dragons go, we of course have Paarthurnax, who's been kicking around up into modern times. As far as everyone else goes, well, Eldwin has of course returned, and he began reviving a bunch of the dragons that we saw in the mounds around there. Since I don't want to spoil anything for anyone who, for some reason, hasn't beat the main quest in Skyrim yet, I will leave it at that for today. As usual, if there is another thing you would like to see me cover, please do not hesitate to post it in the comments. And quick question for the day, as far as the lore goes, do you like it better when I cover the really obscure stuff, or would you like me to go sort of more mainstream and focus on the history of the guilds? Either way, I'm planning on doing both, but as far as what will be prevalent for the time being, please, by all means, let me know.